And in particular, I would like to welcome Minister Farrakhan and his delegation who have come to visit us here. The people who are here have already introduced themselves, and you can see it's quite a cross-section. And we are grateful and thankful that you have come to see yourself what Zimbabwe is against what they are saying it is. And you have made your own judgment, and I'm sure when you go back, you will tell it as it is. Let me just give you a brief background of why we are here today and why you are also here today. When the British government came to lower the Union Jack, which is their flag, they lowered the political flag. And we rejoiced and said they are gone. But they did not lower the economic flag.
That's right. Yeah.
When we realized after many years that they did not lower the economic flag, we realized that something was not complete. But in the intervening period, the president was being referred to as a gentleman. The best guy who was in Africa, although while he was leading an independence struggle, they called him a terrorist.
Yeah.
And they could not believe that this person could accept the lowering of the political flag and keep quiet about the economic flag. What has now happened is that we have, through our government, gone into a process of transferring the shareholding of this country. The shareholding of this country was skewed, and the IMF and World Bank came and told us that we had to have economic structural adjustment. That structural adjustment referred to us selling our companies to them, not changing the shareholding of the land, which does not increase, which is what wealth is. They encourage us to go on the stock exchange and say, you're very educated, you guys go on the stock exchange. But in the stock exchange, you have a piece of paper, today is $1 million, tomorrow is nothing.
That's right.
But with your piece of land, it can be $1 million today and nothing tomorrow. It will remain something for you, it will remain something for your children and your children's children. It's not like a share of Enron.
And welcome. Don't end it.
And welcome. Maybe we don't understand how the stocks work. We are more confident with our stocks here, which is land.
So, you got the right stock, brother.
But right now we are paying the price in that.
Yes.
They are saying to our government, you are now accused of human rights, rule of law, bad governance. Credit lines have been cut from banks in Europe, and some people have been banned from traveling into America or Europe because the accusation is that we are associating with government. Let me just comment on that briefly. Before independence, no black man could own or found or start or promote a bank. The banks that we have today are a result of the new dispensation, which is our independence. Now let me go further again. Before independence, I would say, before independence, blacks were not allowed to have checkbooks. Forget about a banking license, checkbooks. It was illegal for a black man to have a current account and hold a checkbook. You'd be arrested.
That was good governance. That was transparency.
That's right.
That was good governance.
That was the rule of law.
That was the rule of law.
And today we are supposed to look very happy when they're saying, oh, your government is practicing bad governance. When we talk about the rule of law, one wonders which law allowed the British to come and occupy our land.
That's right.
One also wonders and says, when the British came to allocate lands in this country to those who had participated in their wars, it was similar to me going to Mr. Mcheche's company with my workers and giving them a gratuity out of his property. Now, I don't know what law allows a man to go and share, distribute property that does not belong to you and give it your own. When the owners of this property or land come back, we say just asking for it is bad governance. You are now breaking the rule of law because the correct law was for us to own that land. The effect of the cutting of credit lines to financial institutions here and cutting of aid, Minister, is such that most of our healthcare services have gone down. To us, that is genocide.
Yes.
Because they do know what exactly that means. The genocide even goes further in that while President Mbeki was attacked viciously for having said AIDS is caused by poverty, we will go further and say AIDS is a war virus intended to remove black people in Africa from their own continent.
Right.
It is ethno-selective,
That's right.
intended to destroy, kill black people, especially those who are in countries that have a lot of mineral resources which are key to Western interest.
That's correct.
That is why, because uranium and most of the diamonds in the Congo, the Congo owns about 80% of the world's uranium, 80% of the world's diamond. That is where they say AIDS started, to prepare us mentally for the time when everyone in the Congo is finished, right? So that people can now walk into the Congo and take. The country south of us, Botswana, has a very small population and it is depleting very fast. South Africa too is depleting very fast. Now I cannot understand the logic why a person just expressing an opinion is attacked so viciously to a point where a president is required to retract.
Yes.
He was probably heading in the wrong direction, but to us, he was heading in the right direction. If you look at human rights, Minister, we can give you lots of examples. The public toilets today in this city, blacks were not allowed to go into those public toilets.
Today.
No, before independence. I remember with my brother, we were pressed and wanted to go to a toilet which is in First Street. We were told not to use it. So we had to run in one of the backyards and just check whether the policemen were seeing us, because if you were seen, it was called, you would be arrested for public indecency. So probably you, I don't know what they expected us to do.
You're not supposed to come to town.
At 5 o'clock, yes, we're not supposed to come to town. At 5 o'clock, this whole town had to be clear of black people. Now after that, I have to be a very reasonable person and start agreeing with our brother Tony Blair, agreeing with our brother Bush, together with him to say President Mugabe is wrong. As if that is not enough, our brother there, Mr. Mawere, has told you, and I'm also included in the list that should not enter America, that should not enter Europe. Very interesting. I do not know whether our entering there, it would cause so much risk economically, physically, spiritually, what damage we would do. And it's also one thing to stop a person from coming to ban a person from coming to your house. I probably didn't want to come there anyway. But you can't publish and say, don't come to my house. But if you look further and say, well, if we're all part of international law, who has done so much wrong that he should be banned from visiting the other? Is it Europeans who should be banned from visiting Africa? If we were to go to the Bible and say an eye for an eye, we would finish our whole lifetime removing the eyes of Europeans. Finally, Minister, I brought this cross-section of people here because when we were still at school, growing up, I was telling San here that I did look at a number of videos about you, and I was a student activist, and we liked the way you told it as it is, and would look at your videos, get inspiration from them. And today we are here to say to you, you are welcome to Zimbabwe. You are part of us, you're one of us. If I was to behave in the conventional manner that banks should behave, or that the so-called professions should behave, we shouldn't be meeting with you. Because you are supposed to be a person who is proscribed, a bit risky,
Bad risk.
Why not be associated?
bad influence, right? The influence which is good is from Tony Blair, from those who have banned us, Mr. George Bush, and Europe. So the purpose of organizing this lunch and being with you is to say, we've been to university with those young fellows in Europe and we've beat them at their own schools.
That's right.
They should stop the business of defining to us who our friends should be.
Yes. Right.
We would be totally confused if we had listened to them, because at one time our president was called a terrorist, another time a gentleman, this time they are demonizing him. Right? So we are simply saying we are adults in Africa, and we do not want those outside Africa to start defining to Africans who our friends should be. We are big enough to invite our friends or our brothers. If there's any problem, we sort it out.
That's right.
We do not want to be introduced to Africans by Europeans. Right? Brother Gaddafi was ostracized for some time. When President was chairman of the OAU, he was the first man to go on the plane and break that sanction. Because how could we ostracize and forsake our own brother? Who in Europe, which European head of state has been ostracized by the Europeans, regardless of what the sins they say they have done?
That's right.
There are lots of them who have done a lot of bad things according to them, but they haven't ostracized each other. And they will never listen to Africans if we say we will define who you should talk to. So as the Africa Union develops and as our history unfolds, you will see a generation made up of the likes of our brother Obadiah, Brother Mawere, and all of them who are determined to say, no, no, man, enough is enough. We are here on our own steam, really. The food that we have eaten here has not been provided by Tony Blair. We're growing.
Yeah.
And we when our brothers come to visit us, it is at our invitation. And those who simply feel that they want to come back home, they should be confident to simply come and visit and know that they're welcome. You never give notice when you want to go back home. You simply arrive.
That's right. That's right. I like that.
Minister Farrakhan, thank you very much for the visit. You're welcome. We know you'll be living some time today. We want to say, as you travel, may the blessings of God go with you.
Thank you.
As they brought you here. You're not here by accident.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Is it time for me to?
Yes.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, we, as Muslims, never do anything without invoking God's name and seeking His help. As a Muslim, to my Christian family, we, as Muslims, could never be Muslims without belief in Jesus. And our belief in Jesus is exceedingly strong. Most Christians do not know that Muslims believe in Jesus. And as a Muslim, we not only believe in Jesus, but we believe in the gospel. We believe in all the prophets that came to Israel, to the children of Israel. So we believe in the Torah, or the Old Testament. And we have one up on you because we not only believe in the books that God gave to you, we believe in the book that He gave to Muhammad, peace be upon him. So that kind of spirit, where we make no distinction between the servants of God, we love them all, we honor them all, we respect them all, and we try to follow the guidance of God that came to us through them. We see Jesus as the Messiah. And as the Messiah, we see Him rank above prophets. And so I thought I should say that so that you would not see us as Muslims as someone that believes so differently from yourselves. We greet you always with the greeting Assalamu alaikum, which in Arabic means peace be unto you. And you know, when you read scripture, Jesus never met His disciples or left His disciples without saying, peace be with you. And He didn't speak English. And He didn't speak Shona. And He didn't speak Swahili. But He spoke ancient Egyptian, Arabic, and Aramaic, and Hebrew. So if Jesus were here in Hebrew, He would say, Shalom Aleichem. And in Aramaic or Arabic, He would say, Assalam Alaikum. Now I want you to tell me in Shona, how do you say, peace be with you? Say it. Okay. That's the way Jesus would say it in Shona.
Yes. Right.
But since we are speaking English, I want to greet all of you with peace. And thank you so very much for the honor of being here in Zimbabwe, and the honor that you have paid to us by inviting us to share a luncheon with such esteemed members of the Zimbabwean business and spiritual community.
That's right. That's right.
And I would hope that in the future, as our president gets older and must pass the baton of leadership on, that it would be passed to somebody like yourself. Who is highly intelligent, highly committed, and one who loves Zimbabwe, but also loves Africa, and feels a Pan-African spirit, and has character
That's right.
and integrity.
That's it.
And those are the characteristics, not that he has by himself, but all of you have the same. But I see in a young man those things that make me know that Africa is really secure.
Well done.
Africa is secure.
Africa is good.
I heard it last night in my dear Reverend Obadiah. I hear it again today in you. And I go away feeling very good
That's right.
about the future of Zimbabwe. And I thank God for the Bushes of the world and for the Tony Blairs of the world. Because sometimes, if it's not for these ill winds, people who need the warmth of each other would never come together. But because of a Tony Blair and a Bush and all the wicked men that are in this world, you have common cause now to unite in spite of differences for the good of Zimbabwe and for the good of Africa. Now, I'm honored to be among business people, farmers, because farmers to me represent the engine of life itself.
That's right.
Without a farm, the banker can't count money, he would have no energy without food.
Yeah.
And so the farmer in Zimbabwe and indeed in Africa and throughout the world should be an honored community, because those who work with the land and work with seasons and depend on rain
That's it.
and know how to cope with the natural enemies of that which they're trying to grow and develop. We ought to use that same natural knowledge that comes from working with agriculture to know that as there are natural enemies to everything that God creates, the white man is a natural enemy to the black man. And if you don't see that now, I don't know when you will ever see it. Now listen to me. I'm not a racist. I'm not a racist. I hate racism. And I would never attempt to exalt one race over another. But I want to give you a perfect example of why I say he's the natural enemy to you. And the only way you can put a natural enemy under check is that you must be strong in the nature in which God created you. Then you can check the weakness of his nature to exploit you and supplant you and take advantage of you because of ignorance. The Bible says, my people are destroyed, not because they're black, but they're destroyed for the lack of knowledge. And it is a certain kind of knowledge that you need in order to fight.
Come on, brother.
And fight successfully.
Go ahead now.
Now, I'm going to give you an example. And I'm going to sit down. But you know, I love to preach. I can't help it, Obadiah. Can I tell you something?
Tell us.
I love that, brother. And whatever I know, Obadiah, in truth, I'm your servant. Because I see so much in you for the future of young preachers
That's right.
that if they preach the gospel
That's
from
it.
that enlightened spirit that you have
Amen.
of love for God, love for Christ, love for the soil, love for the people of the soil, then brother, you have a great future. And I was so glad to see you on television this morning, and Zimbabwe TV gave you some minutes to, or some seconds to talk to the people, and I think they need to hear more from you. But let me go to what I wanted to say. I'm going to use your president as an example because he was so gracious
Yes.
in receiving us.
Yes.
He didn't have to do it,
Come on.
but he spent over 2 hours
That's right.
giving us the history. We wanted to meet with the Minister of Information, the Minister of Land, the Minister of Mines, the Minister of Education, but we met them all in him.
Stay there.
And so he gave us a well-rounded view
That's right.
That's right.
of Zimbabwe.
That's what it is.
Now, when he was in the bush, not President Bush's bush, but when he was in the bush fighting alongside Joshua and Kumo and the great warriors, men, women, and children who were fighting for the liberation of this land, the Bushes of the world, the Tony Blairs of the world, the white people of the world referred to him in the language of terrorists.
Yes.
I was surprised when I went to the Heroes Acre and looked at on the wall what was written by the whites who were running Southern Rhodesia at that time. The language that they used then for those who struggle for liberation, they called them terrorists.
Yes.
As I said in the United States of America after September the 11th, I said that the United Nations has to come up with a definition of what is a terrorist and what is a freedom fighter. Raise the standard so that you have a definition that we can look at universally accepted, that one man who is a terrorist can be defined as that, but no freedom fighter can be charged with being a terrorist when he's fighting to liberate his land from the occupiers.
Yes.
Now, having said that, when the terrorist Mugabe became the victor over the whites, and you notice how quickly they came to talk
Yes.
when it looked like he was about to take the capital. The same way they talked with Charles Taylor as he was about to take Monrovia. They want to make a deal and tell him, let's get elections. And they never thought that Charles Taylor would win the election. And after he won the election, America didn't like him, doesn't support him, and now is fueling a civil war against him. Well, now, the terrorist, Mugabe, in Lancaster House, with his comrades, arguing over the land question. When he accepted in that Constitution that for 10 years we would ask them to give up the land and we would buy it back. Hell, that's a hell of a compromise. That somebody stole your land and then wants you to buy back what they stole. That compromise from the beginning is what put you in the trouble that you're in today. Because when you're at war with your enemy, you got to take your enemy out so that your land is yours from day one. If we did that 20 years ago, we would not have to do this today. It is better to be a terrorist over your house than to be a good man in the eyes of your enemy and not in control of your own house. It's a damn shame to me that you say you're the owners of the land and this man can't sell a house in a white neighborhood. How in the hell are you free? And why would you accept this as your reality?
Preach it. Come on, bro.
Hell yes, I got to preach it, man. We have bowed down to them, and every time you bow down to them, they crush you even more. So when you stand up, now you become an enemy. That shows you that they are your enemy. Excuse me for being passionate.
Make it plain, brother.
You know, I'm just passionate because I love you. I love this land. And I hate to see what the enemy has done and what he continues to do. And as long as the president allowed them to stay here, I mean, think about this. Ian Smith, when you look at all those bodies, those skulls, and those graves, when you win, you don't even bring your chief enemy to justice. You don't try him. You don't kill him. You allow him to live here and own land. See, that's the goodness of your heart, because you don't know your enemy and you really don't know yourself. But if you knew yourself and you knew your enemy, you would deal with your enemy like an enemy. And I have to say this to you, Reverend. See, there ain't gonna be nobody like you or me dealing with this today, because your heart's too tender. God has to deal with this today. And that's why the Bible say blood will be up to the horse's bridle. You can't stop that with no non-violence. I'm sorry, I have to tell you the truth, because when I leave here, you're gonna meet it anyway.
Yes.
Prophesy.
God is going to deal with this. And if the white man don't back up, you're going to be right back to war again. And a curtain of blood is going to rise from South Africa all the way to the north, because the white man is not going to give up without a fight. And you know I'm telling you the truth.
Stay there. Stay there.
Excuse me. That was that ice cream. That's what it was. Something in that ice cream.
Give him some more.
I'm sorry to raise my voice.
It's fine.
But, dear family, look. I'm hurting because I see. And I'm hurting because I know. I'm not asleep. I'm a wide awake man. And that's why they hate me in America, because I will not stop telling the truth.
Right.
You shall know the truth,
Right.
and the truth shall set you free.
Yeah.
What truth?
Yes.
What truth? It's the knowledge of God, the knowledge of yourself, the knowledge of your enemy, and the knowledge of the true religion of God. That is what's going to set you free. Now I'm going to sit down, because I think I've created a little problem, you know.
No, you haven't.
But family, look.
Open the eyes.
My brother Mugabe today is demonized. He's no longer the good man.
Yes.
But as long as white folk could have 12 million hectares of your land and he said nothing, he's a good man. But when that brother, see, who was one of the warriors, felt betrayed, because the betrayal is, I didn't fight for a flag with no meaning. I didn't fight for a few people to be in parliament riding around in Mercedes Benz, and I don't have a damn thing to feed my children. I didn't fight for that. I fought to free the land. And if the land is not mine, then I have been betrayed, and the revolution has been betrayed. So that man went on the ground. And I thank God for you, because you brought to the president his own consciousness. He's a good man.
That's right.
He could have denied you, sent the army and the police on you and made you the demon, and he would have been loved by all white folks all over the world. But he knew that you were right, but he had to find a way to do it. And he's in between a rock and a hard place. That's why he don't need no, if you excuse my expression, he don't need no this kind of opposition that's paid for.
Yes. Thank you.
He needs his country to stand behind him. He needs the religious community, not these Uncle Tom religious leaders that will get a buttered biscuit and some chicken at the back door of white folk. He needs religious leaders that understand the Bible.
That's right. That's right.
And you're not preaching it right if you don't preach it right.
Yeah. That's right. Mm-hmm.
If you just preach it to please your enemy, you're not pleasing God.
Yeah.
But if you preach the truth, as the truth is written in the scripture, and give the people understanding, then your people will rise strong, and the land will be theirs again, and Zimbabwe will finally be free. I'm in the midst of business people. Business is the activity of life. Without business, you're not a living people. And that's what marked us as being mentally dead, because we were not providing the goods and services that our people need: food, clothing, and shelter, industry, trade, and commerce. That's the work of living people.
That's it. That's it.
So when you got businessmen, you got people that are alive, people that are alert, people that want to supply goods and service to your people, not to exploit their ignorance, to gain personal wealth at the expense of their ignorance, but to gain economic strength so you can be a better servant of your people. To help them build free institutions, not educational institutions that you got to go to Britain and get your curriculum.
Stay there.
Who's teaching our people? Who's educating them? It hurts me. I don't know how Parliament is run here today, but I know when I go to certain countries in the Caribbean where the British once were, I see them coming with the wig on, and I say, well, where the hell am I, you know? Where am I? Am I in Great Britain? Where am I? You gotta divest yourself of this man. Divest yourself of what he robed you in, and robe yourself in garments that are made by yourself. Government that is made by you. You don't have to follow their example. You are older than they, wiser than they, lived on the planet longer than they. And if you dig deep into your nature, you come up with a democracy and a form of government better than they. Yours will be the kingdom of God on earth if you allow yourself to listen to your own voice. So I'm through. I'm excited. You know, and I'm sorry if I offended anyone. But brother, I'm going to say this to the reporter. You know what, brother? You don't need to come with a pad and a pencil. Whenever you come to hear somebody, you get you a small tape recorder.
Yes.
So you can be faithful
Yes.
to what I say. Because what I read in the paper today, I didn't say that. And it's not good, man. Don't misquote me. I'm telling you straight, don't misquote me. What I say, be true to my words, because the enemy is always misquoting me. I know that's not your intention, but your pad and your paper is not sufficient. I'll buy you a tape recorder. But every time you interview somebody, put a tape recorder down, then go home and take their words exactly as it's there. Then you'll be faithful to your people and to the man that you're representing. Otherwise, you'll be misrepresenting me. And I was misrepresented from the first day that I got here. I didn't talk to you at the airport. I said nothing. I gave you my name. You asked me my purpose. And all that I read in the paper the next day is what you said. But it's not what I said, because I said nothing. That's not journalism to me.
No.
That is not journalism.
That's right.
And I have to correct you. I'm your brother. And I love you. But don't do that to nobody. Get you a tape recorder. And then if I don't say nothing, don't you say nothing. And say that I said it, because I didn't say it. I'm making it very clear.
Yep. Yes,
And if you don't want me to come back, that's fine.
Yes, sir.
But at least you'll know you got a brother that told you the truth as I understand it. I'm through now. But, brother, I really thank you all. I'm not saying this in anger at you. You know, I'm just saying it as a friend.
As a preacher.
You understand? Look at the dirty kind of journalism you got in the name of democracy. I mean, this is a horrible thing. You know, opposition is not wrong. It's not bad to have an opposition. But opposition for opposition's sake doesn't help us. Opposition where you got a better idea or a different idea, you put your idea forth and let the people decide. But just to be so negative, to beat up on your president, beat up on your leadership, it's not wise. It's not good. You're allowing the white man's system to help you tear up your own house.
Say that again.
That's right. That's right.
In no way, when they had a referendum on land, should the land question have lost in the public. That should never have happened. And you know what it says? We who know that the president is right, we're being beaten by the money interests that have come into this country to make the people turn against their own leader and their own best interests. So, I mean, to me, what I heard you say, brother, you are so clear.
That's right.
And the sincerity of your words, the passion of you, it comes through so clear.
That's right.
You're a banker, but you need to be on the radio. You need to be before the television cameras. Obadiah needs to be on there every week saying something to educate your people. But if you don't do it, and we don't back you in doing it, then the forces of opposition will have the day. And then they'll say the government, parliament, which is rubber stamped by Mugabe, turned back the people's will. When in reality, if the people knew, the people would never say they shouldn't have their own land back. Dear brothers, if I offended anybody, I have to apologize. I'm sorry. I don't mean offense. But you know, when I talk to my brother, and I know he's a sincere, good-hearted Christian man, and I asked him a question: can you sell houses in the area where white folk live? And the answer to me, I could not accept. Because this is your land. And if this is your land, you should be able to do where you should do, go where you should go, and they should be asking you permission, not you asking them. So we got work to do here to take this country back for ourselves. So I thank you for the meal. I thank you for your kindness. And above all, I thank His Excellency, President Mugabe, for his kindness extended to us, for the goodness that we felt from the people, from each one of you. And I just don't want to see President Mugabe go out of this life not being appreciated for what he is doing.
That's right.
And don't you know that young man that got on that land, that really hurt him to see, oh man, I have not done all that I could have done or should have done, but he's on that case now.
That's right.
And that tells me that he's the best man to lead this country. And you all need to close ranks behind him.
That's right.
Stand with him. stand up for him, so that when the final trumpet is blown, like I was told yesterday, everywhere they looked in Heroes Square, when Acres, when they buried Joshua in Como, the people were all there, weeping and giving honor to him, which he justifiably is due. But how quickly we forget. Beloved brothers and sisters, we don't have long to live. We should live our lives so that the children, your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren
Generations, yeah.
will have a future.
Yes.
And whatever sacrifice it takes of us, we should be willing to make it. If it means that we are evil spoken of, we'll accept that. If it means that this brother and the other brother that was at the table with us can't go to America, well, that's a sacrifice. It's hurtful. You can't go to London. You can't go to Europe. Well, what is God saying? He's saying, take your attention and put it on the land where you are free to travel and free this land. Free it so that the children will have a great future. Thank you very much for allowing me to